Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to P1 online classes for June 2018 examination. I am Kashif Kamran, your tutor. This is the 12th lecture for the online P1 classes. And into the last class, we were discussing this integrated capital and the six capitals of integrated reporting. And we did one exam paper, which was Plantex, in which we utilized not just the gray O and Adam, but we also utilized the six capitals and an understanding of the six capitals of the integrated reporting. Now, I'm continuing with my completion phase of the ethics today. I need to complete all slides for ethics today. So let's continue from where we left. The last thing we saw was the deep ecologist, right? So I'm continuing from slide number 162, which is a very important topic because of the the examiner recent emphasize on this topic a lot. CSR strategies and strategic CSR, right? Let's start understanding this. Now, I let you read the slides, but let me first make you clarified exactly what CSR strategy mean and what is a strategic CSR. Now, all of you know many things now. You know normative, you know instrumental, you know Johnson and Scholl, you know Gray, Owen, Adam. So you have the mindset now to understand this topic very easily. Examiner wrote an article, and you will read this article by downloading it from the P1 website. And in that article, the examiner wrote CSR strategies and strategic CSR, right? Now, the examiner tried to differentiate between the two terms, what basically is a strategy and what basically is strategic. Now, try to understand when we say something is strategic, strategic means that you have a goal, right? Strategic means you have a future direction. Strategic means that you are concerned about future prospects, right? Because the literal meaning of the word strategic is to set goals for future, right? Or the literal meaning of the word strategic is where we want to be. So it's all about looking into the future, right? Now, what are we talking about? We are talking about a strategic CSR. Strategic CSR. That means you need to have a goal, or you need to have a vision. You need to have a goal, or you need to have a vision for CSR. You need to have a goal and vision for the people and planet. So you should have a goal or vision for CSR. Like if you have a 2025 goal, so the company is making a goal of the corporate social responsibility for 2025. That means the next 7-year goal. Now, is it true that when a company has a CSR goal, the company obviously will have a CSR strategy, because the strategy will help to achieve a goal, right? Strategy help us to get there. So if my goal is that I need to work for improving the planet, I need to reduce the emissions, then what my strategy would be? My strategy would be that I might reduce emission by controlling the amount of pollution from my factory, or by buying new plant and machinery, because the new plant and machinery would reduce the amount of emission which goes out of my factory. Or I might not dispose of my factory waste into the seawater. I might recycle my factory waste. So I have to do something, right? Strategy is your actions basically, which you do to achieve your goal or objective, right? So a strategic CSR means your goal about future, your vision about CSR, your vision about something like, example, your CSR plan for 2025. Now, try to understand this very importantly, right? If a company have a strategic CSR, that means the company will obviously have CSR strategies to achieve its strategic CSR. Is that true? So is my statement true? If a company have a strategic CSR, that means the company will obviously have a CSR strategy to achieve its strategic CSR. Can we achieve our goals without strategies? Which company will have a strategic CSR, will have a strategic CSR? A company which have a normative philosophy or an instrumental philosophy? Asad and Tahir, which company will have a strategic CSR? A company which have a normative philosophy or an instrumental philosophy? Normative, true. Which company will have a strategic CSR? A company which have a normative philosophy. Not a company which have instrumental philosophy, not a company which thinks about making money, making profit, a company which is concerned about people and planet. So which company will have a strategic CSR? A company which have a normative philosophy. And please understand that when we talk about a strategic CSR, strategic CSR means it needs efforts, because you need to define your goals, you need to define your future plans, and that means the directors in the company are serious. Directors in the company are serious about CSR. They are serious about efforts to be done for people and planet. If the director is of a capitalist mindset, why will he do so much efforts? Because if a director is of a capitalist mindset, he will be thinking this is all waste of time, this is all waste of money. But if the director is like a radical feminist, if there are feminine values in the corporate culture, remember Grey One Atom, then obviously the CSR would be strategic. So I hope you're understanding that the strategic CSR needs your efforts and commitments. Yeah, that it needs commitments of the director, commitment of the strategic management. So only that strategic management will do it right, which is serious about it. Commitment of the strategic management. Okay, then let's do the next exercise. CSR strategies. CSR strategies are what? CSR strategies are actions, ways to achieve CSR goals. Now, I am putting a question. Let's see if you can realistically think about it. Can a company have a CSR strategy but does not have a strategic CSR? Can a company have a CSR? Can a company have a CSR strategies in place but does not have a strategic CSR? Yes or no? Yes, okay. Let's justify. The answer is right, but let's justify. Can a company have a CSR strategy in place but does not have a strategic CSR? The answer is yes. Let's see how. Suppose a company give donations every year but does not want to make any firm commitment, does not want to make any firm commitment towards CSR, like as in does not want to set goals for CSR. The company thinks, okay, I'm giving donation, that's fine. I give donation every year as a company, but I don't want to define things on a strategic basis. I don't want to bring commitment in my company. I don't want to make a goal for 2025 that I'll do this, I'll do that. That means CSR strategies can be taken as casual here. That you do CSR, but that's casual. When you like, you do it. When you like, you do it. When you don't, you will not. One year you give donation, the second year you will not. One year you work for people education, the second year you don't. But if you have a strategic CSR, you have to do it each year. But if you don't have a strategic CSR and you only have a CSR strategies, then you can take it very casual. One year you give donation and the next year you say, no, I'm not giving donation because I don't have a strategic CSR. So suppose a company give donations every year but does not wants to make that as a firm commitment, like as in does not want to set it a goal for CSR. So the CSR strategies can be casual. And which companies will have a casual CSR strategies? The instrumental companies. But the normative companies will have a proper CSR goals and they will accomplish goals through the CSR strategies. Is that clear with everyone? I am going back to the slides so that you can read slides, what's written on slides for CSR strategies and strategic CSR. Let's see if that gets clear and we exit from this topic. Okay, let's get back to the slides and let's see what's written on the slide. Okay, let's see what's written. A strategy is a long-term plan primarily focused on delivering a prescribed outcome, right? See focus, delivering. That means strategy is about actions. Strategy is about actions, right? A prescribed outcome. A CSR strategy specifically involved devising. See, strategy has to be devised and then undertaking a series of steps, right? Strategy is a series of steps in pursuance of a social responsibility agenda. See, you have an agenda, focus is on agendas. That means you have a goal, and to achieve the goal, you are taking steps. To have a CSR strategy involve making choices in support of a specific cause. Choices, right? Suppose if I have a specific cause, my specific cause is education. So I can have many choices. My education choice one could be primary education. Second could be secondary education. Primary could be making schools. No, not making schools. Providing free textbooks. No, not even providing free textbooks, but providing donations to schools. I can help education in many ways. I can help education by making a school. I can help education by giving donations. I can help education by giving the free books. So there might be many choices, right? You have for a specific cause and implementing policies and procedures which will help to deliver the objective. So the focal point of strategy is delivering. The focal point of the strategy is steps. The focal point of the strategy is agenda against which you take these steps, and it involves making choices. It involves making choices. Right? Is that clear to everyone? So CSR strategy, right? Try rephrasing that in your own words, right? CSR strategic. Since CSR normally requires the commitment. See, for a strategic CSR, what you need? For a strategic CSR, you need the commitment of the board. Without the board commitment, you cannot have a strategic CSR. Normative. Many companies tries to reflect the core values and belief in the company shareholders. So uh, when will your CSR be strategic? When you have them as your core values and beliefs. So if CSR is your core value, then it will be your strategic CSR, right? If CSR is your belief, it will be a core value, it will be a strategic CSR. Therefore, when CSR activities are undertaken with a motive of maximizing the long-term benefit, it can be better described as a strategic CSR. See, with a motive of maximizing the long term, you have to set a goal. We know CSR brings profitability to a company, right? So long-term profitability. Why are we doing a strategic CSR? Why are we doing a strategic CSR? To maximize the profit, right? No company do CSR for welfare. Every company do CSR for maximizing profit. But a company will have a strategic CSR when they're maximizing the profit on a long-term basis. So the underlying assumption underpinning strategic CSR is that all companies' assets belongs to the shareholder, and so all activities, including CSR, should be configured in such a way to enhance the shareholder value. So if the company thinks that why am I doing a strategic CSR? I am doing a strategic CSR because it enhances the long-term value of the shareholder. I hope you remember the Johnson and Scholl long-term shareholder. So why strategic CSR? Because it enhances the long-term shareholder value. So the shareholder will be very happy that the company is doing the CSR because it brings benefit to my wealth. It brings benefit to my shareholder wealth, right? So from an examination point of view, a strategic CSR is your core values, your beliefs, your commitments, and where you try to increase the long-term wealth of your shareholder. But a casual CSR approach can only be a strategy. I hope that's clear to everyone, right? Please do read the Examiner article on strategic CSR and CSR strategies so that you're effectively clear on this subject matter, because as we do the past papers, you should know how to answer them effectively. Is everyone clear with this slide? I'm moving to the next topic then. Sustainability. It's an easygoing topic, sustainability. You should know what is the literal meaning of the word sustain. Sustain is done for future, right? Whenever we talk about the word sustain means for future. So sustain means future, right? Now, what are we sustaining for future? We are sustaining the planet for future. We are sustaining the people for future. So CSR, right? So let's see what is the focal point of the P1 exam. When the P1 exams talk about sustainability, what should a student be knowing? Resources, right? Resources sustainability, agree. Sustainability. Sustainability has been expressed as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So, what is the focal point of sustainability? Has been expressed as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future. So we need resources. We need resources in present, right? But we also need resources in future. So if we consume all resources today, we will not be able to consume resources in future. Yes, the voice quality was a bit distortive. It has come back, right? So every time the voice goes off, I know that. So I stop at that time. So I resume back when the voice comes back, right? Now you can hear me, Sayyid Tahir Imam. Okay, so we were discussing the sustainability. To be sustainable, natural resource must be used at a rate at which they can be replenished naturally. So we need to use the natural resources, right? We need to use the natural resources, but we need to use them at a rate which they can be replenished naturally. See the deforestation. I keep cutting the trees. If I keep cutting the trees and I'm not thinking about replanting them, I'm just thinking about the present. So if I just destroy all the trees, I cut all the trees, I'll not be having the trees for the next year. So I need to deforest, but I need to reforest as well. But if I don't do the deforest, where will I get the woods from? But I need to do the deforestation, but I also need to do the reforestation. So if I'm doing a bad thing, I need to do the good thing. So both goes together, right? Deforestation, yes, I need the wood. The furniture industry, where will they get the wood from? But with the deforestation, you have to do the reforestation, right? So at a rate which they can be replenished naturally. There is a clear scientific evidence that the humanity is living in an unsustainable way. That's true by consuming the earth limited resources more rapidly than they are being replaced by nature. That is the reason, right? There are so much scarcity of water, scarcity of natural resources. And obviously that's a dilemma, right? That we're living in an unsustainable way, right? So from an examination point of view, the definition is the bullet number one. So the bullet number one is define sustainability, right? So if the examiner asks you define, so the bullet one is the definition. Is that clear with everyone? The next slide. Forms of sustainability. Sustainable. What are we sustaining? We are sustaining planet? Yes. We're sustaining people. We are sustaining both. Weak form of sustainability and strong form of sustainability. Let's see what is that. Weak form, human sustainability. Strong form, human and planet. If a company is only concerned about people future, that is said to be a weak sustainability. But if the company is concerned about the people future, and the people is concerned about the planet future, then that company demonstrate a strong sustainability. So in an exam paper, if you think the company is concerned about the people and planet sustainability, then that is a strong form of sustainability, and the vice versa. If they're just concerned about the people, that is just a weak sustainability, right? So what is a human sustainability? People sustainability, right? What is a people sustainability? Working for people health, working for people education, enhancing the people health. Suppose if the Pepsi is manufacturing chips like Lay's, and the Pepsi says, in my Lay's chips there is a reduced fat. So reduced fat will help the people sustainability, right? Or they say in the Pepsi there is a zero sugar added. So if there is a zero sugar in Pepsi, that is good for people. So the companies do people sustainability, right? The company work for education, the company work for people health, the company work for reducing fat, sugar, salt. So if it says zero salt added in a chips, that means it is good for the people. So you can work for people sustainability, right? But environmental sustainability is important as well. It's not just focusing on people health and education, it's also about the planet future. If I make a Lay's chips, if I make a Lay's chips, for example, which is good for human consumption because it has less salt or less fat, for example, but the wrapping material of the Lay's chips is not recyclable, and I eat the chips and I throw the wrapper in the dustbin, and the wrapper is not recyclable. So the wrapper is increasing the garbage. The garbage affects the planet. So the company has to see both sides. I need to see my product. Is my product good for people? And if my product is good for people, what about my wrapping of the product? Is my product recyclable? Is the packing recyclable? How much emission I cause when I make one packet of Lay's chips? So see, Lay's chips is good for people, for example, but Lay's chips packing is not recyclable. And when I manufacture one packet of Lay's chips, how many pollution I cause to the planet? So if the company do both things, they work for people, they work for planet, then that is a strong form of sustainability. Is that clear to everyone? Weak and strong form? Okay, next, environmental footprint. Now, what exactly footprint means? Footprint means impact, literal meaning, right? If anyone asks you what is a footprint, so you'll say footprint is an impact. Which impact are we talking about? Environmental impact. Let's see what is the definition. Environmental footprint is a measure of the impact, is the measure of the impact that a business activity have upon environment. I was just giving you that example, right? If I manufacture one packet of Lay's chips, that one packet of Lay's chips, how much damage that brings to environment, how much emission goes to environment, because to manufacture one packet of Lay's chips, how much destruction I've done to the planet. It is the measure of the impact that a particular business activity, for example, manufacturing the Lay's chips, particular business activity, manufacturing an ice cream, manufacturing a beverage, manufacturing a car. These are all business activities, right? And how much impact is of the business activity on the environment. So it measures the impact, right? Now, bigger the company, bigger the impact. Unilever impact. See how big the company Unilever is? Think about the Unilever impact on the planet. Think about Nestle. Think about Kellogg's. Think about the General Mills, the leading American multinational company, the GM, General Mills. Think about Kellogg's. Think about Unilever, Nestle, P&G. They have phenomenal impact on planets. Examples of environmental footprints: depletion of natural resource. When Unilever makes products, they deplete natural resource, right? Water consumption, they do water consumptions. Carbon emissions, waste disposal. Think about Nestle, think about Unilever, think about P&G, think about how much pressure they put on the natural resource, how much water consumption, how much carbon emissions, right? Is that clear? With environmental footprint, a business activity have upon the environment. The next is ecological footprint. What's the difference? Ecological footprint, it compares the human demand. That was the business activity, right? How much impact Unilever cost to environment is environmental footprint. How much impact the human demand cause on environment? Human demand means us, the population, the global population. Human demand, the global population. And the global population is on the rise each year. So how much effect the global population have on the earth? Maximum, because we consume, and the more we consume, the more is the waste, the more is the disposal. The more we consume, the more we are destroying the planet. So using this assessment, it is possible to estimate how many planet we need to support humanity. Already the NASA has started research on the Mars, and they've already found symptoms of life on Mars. So that means the planet Earth has become too less for us to live on. I hope everyone is clear between environmental footprint. Environmental footprint is the impact of a business on environment, and ecological is the population, the global population demand, and how it affects the planet. So one is the human demand, one is the business impact. Is that clear? Ecological footprint and environmental footprints. Will you remember the definitions from examination point of view? Okay, the next then. Environmental management systems. Now finally, we are coming towards the end of things now. Environmental management systems. Now, how do a company, uh, the way we have internal control systems in a company, right? The same way the company have environmental management systems. If a company is serious about environment, if a company is serious about controlling emissions, if a company is serious about garbage, recycling, then just like an internal control system, they will have an environmental management system. Let's see what exactly this environmental management system do for a company. There are two environmental management systems in your syllabus. One is ISO 14000, which is more popular. One is Emass. These are two types of systems, right? Now, just be clarified. This ISO is a global system. So from an examination point of view is more important. The Emass is a system which is confined to the European Union, EU. So that's less important for P1 exams. So ISO, you must have heard about these ISO certificates, right? ISO 7000, 9000, 6000, 14000. 14000 deals with environment. And Emass is an EU system. It's only confined to the companies in the European Union. Let's see what is the difference between the environmental management system, which is ISO 14000, and Emass. ISO 14000. The ISO 14001 environmental management standards exist to help organizations. See, this ISO 14000 is basically an environmental management standard. Standard means they are like frameworks which help company to develop a system. These are frameworks which help companies develop a environmental system. So if a company wants to have an environmental system, they can follow the ISO 14000 framework, right, to make a system. How does ISO 14000 being a framework which helps the company in making an environmental system, how it helps the company? First, it helps the company to minimize how their operation negatively affects the environment. So ISO 14000 firstly helps the company in minimizing how their operation affects the environment. So it helps them reducing their footprint, environmental footprint, right? Not ecological footprint, environmental footprint. So if the company adopts the ISO 14000, the company would minimize how their operation negatively affects the environment. Second, they will comply with the applicable laws. Every country has environmental laws. So if you are following the ISO 14000, you will not just minimize how your operation affects the environment, but you will also comply with your national laws so that you're more environmental friendly. So a company will follow the environmental laws, the national environmental laws, so that the company is projected as an environmental friendly company. And obviously, when you comply with laws, you will be minimizing how your operation affects the environment. And regular improvement of above. If you're following the ISO 14000, the system, you will minimize and comply, and every year you will improve on it. Every year you will minimize. So it's not you minimize 1 year, you will minimize the next year, you will minimize the third year, and every year you will bring an improvement. So ISO 14000 things, MCR. It minimizes, it complies, it's a regular improvement. So ISO 14000 is equal to M. What is M? Minimize. ISO 14000 is C, comply. R, regular improvement. So the three things helps the company, right, to become an environmental friendly company. Is that clear with ISO 14000? Asad and Imam Tahir? Tahir Imam? Okay, next. Emass for the European Union. Now, if we think about Emass, it's a management tool. So Emass is a management tool. What tool? For companies. It's a tool for companies to evaluate, one, to report, two, and to improve, three, their environmental performance. So what companies do under Emass? They evaluate their environmental performance. Is their environmental performance improving or deteriorating? They evaluate the performance every year. Evaluate, report to the shareholder. CSR report, integrated report. You learned that integrated report in the last class, right? Integrated report, 6 capitals. One of the capital in the 6 capital was the natural capital. Natural capital. So it's a management tool for the companies to evaluate, report, and improve their environmental each year. So there was improvement in ISO 14000. There is an improvement in Emass as well. The emphasis of the scheme is on the Emass, right? The SS Emass, S stand for the scheme. Targets and improvements. So every year the company has to set an environmental target. Every year the company has to set an environmental target, and they have to see how much improvement have come in. So it's a target versus actual. So every time the company sets a target, they try to achieve the target. Which target? Environmental targets, right? On-site inspections. So Emass also thinks that you should go to the sites, see your factories, see your warehouses, See what is exactly happening in your factories and warehouses. Are you polluting? Are you polluting into the sea waters? There should be on-site inspection. Who do this on-site inspection? The internal auditor. The internal auditor do this on-site inspection, right? The internal auditor do this on-site inspection. And disclosure and verification. Disclosure is basically your report, the report you make for the shareholder. So disclosure is more about your integrated reports. So Emass is targets and improvements. Emass is on-site inspections, and Emass is disclosures. Right? So Emass is Emass is TOD. TOD, T is target, O is on-site inspection, and D is disclosures. And ISO 14000 was M, minimize, C, comply, R, reduce. But from an examination point of view, please focus on ISO 14000, not Emass, because since 10 years, this topic has never been examined Emass. Emass is not the focal point. ISO is the focal point because that is international. Emass is just confined to a country or some countries. Okay, is that clear with this topic 7? One of the last few topics now, topic 8, social environmental audit. Now, what exactly is a social environmental audit? It's a pretty simple topic. Social audit, environmental audit. Environmental audit. Who performs environmental audit? Any expert, any environmental expert, or anyone like an internal auditor. So the company's internal auditor can perform the environmental audit, or an expert can perform it as well. What is basic objective of an environmental audit? Obviously, if a company is very serious about environment, and the company have some goals and targets for environment, and the company has a very strategic CSR in place, and they have a normative philosophy, or a company is like a social ecologist. External auditor as well, right? In some countries, you can also take an assurance from an external auditor on your environmental systems, and the external auditor even to provide a moderate assurance, not reasonable, a moderate assurance on your environmental systems. Environmental audit is a systematic. Environmental audit is a systematic, documented, and a periodic evaluation of how well the system is responding. Which system? Systems like ISO 14000, system like Emass. So if you have a system in place, is the system working? Is the ISO 14000 working? Is the Emass working? Depends upon audit. So audit will tell you how well the system is responding to safeguard environment, right? So it's a systematic, documented, and a periodic. Periodic means once every year. Once every year. Right? Systematic means we know audit is systematic. Audit is like box ticking. Auditor checks. Audit checks. So checks means systematic. You must have a list. You must have an audit program. And against the audit program, you check something. And obviously, whenever an audit is performed, it is documented. We have a report, right? So it's a very pretty simple definition of what is an environmental audit. What is a social audit? Social audit is a process which checks that an organization has achieved the social targets. Very simple. So in a social audit, whether it has been done by an internal auditor, a social audit, or whether the internal auditor is, whether the social audit is done by an external auditor, or whether the social audit is done by an expert, it checks that an organization has achieved the social targets. Social targets like health and safety targets, educational targets, philanthropy. Philanthropy is the donations. Donation targets. Have we achieved the donation targets? Have we achieved the educational targets? Have we achieved the health and safety targets? And have we achieved the product responsibility targets? The example of Lay's I was giving you, reduce fats, reduce sugar. So if the company have a target that in the next 5 years, I will reduce the amount of sugar in my beverages. So are you reducing the amount of sugar in your beverages? Is there a proper check and balance on that? So product responsibility means the sugar, the fat, the salt, and by what percentage are they going down every year for the betterment of the people? Okay, is that clear with social environmental audit? Okay, environmental reporting, right? In the last class, we did the integrated reporting. Please remember the integrated reporting is a broader version. Integrated reporting covers how many capitals? 6 capitals. Environmental reporting is just about environment, planet. So environmental reporting is a shorter version of integrated reporting. So environmental reporting and integrated reporting. I hope you can feel the difference. Environmental reporting. Environmental reporting has evolved in the light of stakeholder perspective, whereby the business reports their environmental performance. Business reports their environmental performance beyond financial performance. So in the integrated reporting, we are reporting 6 capitals, right? In the integrated reporting, we are reporting 6 capitals. But in an environmental reporting, we're just reporting natural capital. We're just reporting planet. What have we done for planet? The environmental reporting has further been supported with the development of the global standards like the GRI standards, which supports in the development of the environmental report. Just like we have the IFRS for making the financial statements, or just like we have an IAS for making the financial statements, the same way we have GRI for making environmental report. So if someone asks you, how do we make an environmental report? So you'll say the environmental reports are made on the basis of a GRI standard. So GRI are the standards, right, which tell you how you make an environmental report. But the focal point of the environmental report is planet. Purpose of environmental report. Can you just read this? This is very self-explanatory. The purpose of environmental report. Why do a company publish an environmental report? What's the objective of publishing an environmental report? Okay. Okay, what's the purpose? The purpose is company's ethical values and stance. If a company, suppose it's very logical, right? A company who is making an environmental report, a company which is making an environmental report, what the company is informing the stakeholder about its values and stance. Which values? Values about CSR. Values about company being normative, not being instrumental. So you're telling the stakeholders that we are a normative company. We are a CSR friendly company. Then you're telling the stakeholders about your environmental systems in place. Now you know the environmental systems, right? Either the ISO 14000 or the Emass. Then you're telling the stakeholder about your indicators and goals and your performance against the goals. So your goals and your performance. And then you're telling your footprints, that how have you reduced your footprints as a business. So pretty simple things, right? Your values, your systems, your goals, your actuals, and your footprints. This is all the objective. And even if someone asks you what are contents of the report, these are even the contents of the report. Ethical values is the content of the report. System is the content of the report. Indicators, performance against the indicators, and footprints. So if the question asks you what are contents of environmental reporting, can you put the same answer? As well as the examiner asks you what is the purpose of environmental reporting? See, this is the contents of the environmental report, right? In an environmental report, if the examiner asks you what are contents of environmental report, so in an environmental report, you tell about your vision and strategy. Vision means you tell about your goals. Goals about planet. What goals you have about planet. It's like a strategic CSR. Then you tell about the system in place. System in place means something like ISO 14001. Your goals and targets, you tell that in the report, and your actual performance. So it's pretty simple to learn for exam paper, right? What is included in the environmental report? In the environmental report, I have my vision about the environment. I have my goals about environment. I have my actual performance about environment. And I also tell about my systems like an ISO 14000. So the public knows about my systems I have in place in my company, right? I hope this is a very journalized topic. Contents of the environmental report, purpose of the environmental report. But I hope you have a sense. Environmental report is not the integrated report, right? Integrated report is much broader because it includes the 6 capitals. The environmental report is just about planet. If I say social report, it's about people. If I say environmental report, it's about planet. If I say integrated report, it's about 6 capitals. Is that clear with everyone? Okay. Now then, after advantages of environmental reporting, just read that quickly so that the slide has been done. I'm not doing advantages. These are journal advantages. You read and you can understand. But if a company makes an environmental report, what are advantages of it to a company? Just quickly read for the sake of formality that the slide has been done, 181. Environmental reporting, if you have read so, the advantage 1, 2, 3, I hope they are self-explanatory and not difficult. Okay. After that is the integrated reporting. We've done the integrated reporting in the last class, so just skipping this off. And then the topic 11, code of conduct for accountants. Now, you need to assure that when we talk about accountants, because we're discussing this topic as like ethics, right? So we've done the company's ethics. Now it's time for accountant ethics. The code of conduct for accountants. This has been very popular area of P1 exams in past. What is public interest? And you're appearing for the last farewell sitting for P1 exams in June now. So examiner has put a lot of emphasis on this term in last many attempts paper. What is public interest? So let's see what is a public interest. And we're taking public interest in the context of the accountant. The public interest is one of the key themes in professionalism, including in accountancy. To act in the public interest means to act for the benefit of collective well-being of a society as a whole. So what we need to understand here is that being an accountant, we need to act in the public interest means to act for the benefit of the collective well-being of the society. I hope you must remember the F8 paper that if the auditor gets to know something wrong happening in a company, as if, for example, the company is producing any raw material, the company is producing any finished goods out of some contaminated chemical, then being an accountant, you have a responsibility to whistleblow, right? I hope you remember that confidentiality principle from F8 paper, that we can whistleblow when we have a voluntary responsibility and an obligatory responsibility, right? So public interest, auditor do whistleblow, right? When he thinks something is in the public interest. You can remember that from the F8 paper, confidentiality. And public interest means the auditor blow the whistle when he thinks something is happening against the public interest in the company, right? This means that accountants should serve the interest of the client, shareholders, governments, stakeholders. Obvious. Auditor, when the auditor is performing the audit, he's not just performing the audit for the shareholder, right? He's performing the audit for the capital market. The auditor is performing the audit for the future investors. The auditor is performing the audit for the government, the tax authorities. See, so many people rely on the auditor report, right? On the auditor report, not only the shareholder rely, though it's meant for the shareholder, but even a potential investor relies on the auditor report. The bank also relies on the auditor report when giving a loan. The government also relies on the auditor report to ensure whether the company has complied with the laws and regulation. The tax authorities, right? So see how many people rely on the auditor report, though it is meant for the shareholder, but see how many people rely on it. So is that where the auditor is working in the well-being of a society? I hope you're getting the meaning of the word well-being. The accountant serves the interest of clients, shareholders, governments, other stakeholders, right? So does auditor works in public interest? True or false? Does auditor works in public interest? True, right? Because see how many people are connected with the auditor. And if he thinks something is happening wrong in a company, the auditor whistleblow the matter in the public interest. So please revise the public interest. Society relies upon the premise that accounting reports are true and fair, right? Society relies upon the reports. See, not just the shareholder relies upon your report, the society relies upon your report. So you work in the public interest, right? As being an accountant or as being an auditor. So please skim over the public interest and be assured that you know the concept of public interest, linking that to the auditor and how auditor works in the public interest. Okay, now that's bringing the end of this syllabus. There are some questions coming in front of you, which I would like you to prepare for the next class. December 15, we have done that question, so skip that question. Skip this question, we have done this. And we have also done the RDC wala question, right? So skip that as well. But please prepare this question for the next week classes. December 13, question number 3, help with life. June 12, question 3, the JoJo auditor. And December 15, question 4, MRA. So please prepare these 3 questions for the session exercise next class. I'll be drafting the answers of these 3 questions in the next class, December 13, June 12, and December 15. I'll take 1 class for drafting, and I'll take 1 class for lecture. So the Thursday class coming next week would be for home assignments. You will just read these questions, right? Home assignments. I'll solve them with you in the session. And I've shared some answers on the WhatsApp group yesterday of many past papers which I have done in my regular classes. So please, if you are attempting any question at home, you can see the answers from those Word files. They're not answers of 100% questions. They're answers of many of the questions. So you can refer them back to the answers. Right? Now, technically, if I talk about theoretically 60% course have been done, because 35% was the corporate governance and 25% is ethics. So we're just left with miscellaneous parts of syllabus now, which is internal control and a very important part of the syllabus, risk. I'll be starting with risk in the next class, but that would be Friday. Thursday, I'll do the past papers. So you have to do these 3 past papers for the next class on Thursday, December 13, June 12, and December 15. If anyone can be able to draft the answer, I'll prefer if you can snapshot and give me your exercises give me your assignments for the next class. Right? Please ensure that all slides up to, out of the 260 slides, we have done slides up to 187. So technically we're left with like 73 more slides to cover this whole syllabus now. So please ensure that slide number 1 to 187, you keep revising them, and the papers practice being recommended, please go down with that. Okay, so please revise things for the next class. I'll be starting with risk in the next class and the past paper practice, and I'll give you some temperament of the question 1 in the next class, how to write the professional marks. I'll give you some format exercise in the next class and some in the week after. So because we have to exercise the question 1 as well, right? And I have to prepare you for the formats. So I'll give you some format exercise next week and some format exercise the week after. Right? Is that clear? Okay, so I'll meet you next week. Please keep preparing yourself for P1. Revise the home assignment questions on slide 187. And next week I'll be drafting on Thursday. So Thursday class is all about drafting, and Friday class is all about lecture. Okay, thank you very much for being in class today. Allah Hafiz. See you next week.